Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeff Stewart, and of course, the host, Stu Daddy, hosting the Bar Talk. It's a podcast from downtown Burnside, Mississippi. That's where we're all sitting.
Woo!
Yes, sirree. And we've got special guests in tonight. We've got old friends in as well, and of course, a neighbor and a friend. We're interviewing Clint Reynolds. I've got Clint Reynolds here tonight, and want to welcome you to the podcast. Welcome.
Appreciate it, Jeff. It's the first time down here. Not the first time at the Beer Shack, I gotta say, but the first time on the podcast. I appreciate the welcome. Thanks.
Well, thanks for coming. Burnside, Mississippi. Of course, these guys here with me are locals. We're at Jolly's Beer Shack. I've got Papa Todd Jolly. He is a founding member of the Beer Shack Club.
And the owner.
Chief cook and bottle
And it's for
washer.
sale. It's for sale for the right price.
Justin Clearman is here with us as well. Justin is a city alderman of Philadelphia.
For a few more months.
Yeah, that's right. But hey, you're doing it now. And of course, Josh Jolly is here with us as well. Josh, also you heard the Jolly name. He is also he is a co-owner, isn't he? He's a recipient.
Yeah.
He was slow to speak
heir.
on that one. He was slow to speak.
He is an heir. He is an heir.
yet.
We might have to get the DNA thing going. But anyway, I'm pretty sure some other folks would like to know, how this is going to go. Jolly's Beer Shack, that's where we're at. Burnside, Mississippi. One of our neighbors from Philadelphia, Mississippi. Actually, a Burnside neighbor.
Yeah, I rode my four-wheeler down here.
He sure did.
Just down the hill.
I was the first one here, of course.
Yeah.
And waiting on someone. Someone pulls up, and I crick
on
my
Jolly.
whole neck around, and it's our guest tonight, Clint.
Absolutely.
And Clint, we're here tonight talking, of course. You are a musician, and Jolly's Beer Shack, the bar talk that we have, it's a cop bar. I'm just going to tell you, Josh is an officer of the law, has been for many years now,
About 8 years.
about 8 years. Papa Todd is not an officer of the law. But
He's a supporter.
I'm still.
He's
He's
back
still
up-
got an active arrest warrant with
He
the
does?
city. We gotta work that
got
out.
to work.
No, we done had this conversation. I do not have a warrant.
We back the blue, and at Jolly's Beer Shack, we do have retired officers that come by. We do have on duty or employed officers, I guess. City, Philly.
That's we got a retired officer.
We have
Sitting on the
Sir,
corner.
Sir Barry Truitt's with us tonight, friends, and of course we have folks that gather. But tonight we really wanted Clint. You're a road musician. You play with Frank Foster.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your current gig. That's not how music started with you, though.
No, not at all.
From right up the road. Now, if you leave Jolly's Beer Shack, if you go right up here and take a curve, we're going to see your house up there.
Absolutely. There's one house. There's one house between the Beer Shack and mine. One mailbox. I live at the top of the hill. He lives at the bottom. So if it floods down here, he calls my mom and lets her know about it. Hey, it's headed your way. So
Neighbors, man. Your
Yeah,
neighbors.
right.
Well, you and I
How
go
high is the
back.
water,
We
Mama?
go back. Tell us a little bit about your musical career. How did you get into music? How did you learn music? Let's get started with that.
Absolutely. I got into music from school. They offered a great program in the band, and so I joined up, and I also like sports. So I joined sports and band, and I contemplated between the two. And when I got to 8th grade, they said, hey, you might get a scholarship with sports. You absolutely get a scholarship with band. So I kept going with band. I was
You're a
like,
smart
all right,
kid.
scholarship, I'll take it.
Smart kid. Good deal.
Unbeknownst to me, that actually led to what I know is playing bass today. Like, I had no clue that I would be led to playing bass from choosing band as a scholarship. I didn't know.
What was your band instrument? What did they?
I
I
played-
know you wanted to be a drummer.
I did.
Everybody
Funny-
wants to be a drummer.
Funny story. I was sitting in, this is 6th grade, sitting in band, and they were like, all right, they were calling out classes. They were taking you to different sections, woodwinds, upper brass, and they said low brass. And 6th grade me, I thought they were talking about the percussionists, drummers, low brass. I was like, low brass, they play the low instruments. So I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I go into this room, and they're like, all right, you look like a tuba player. And I was like, that's a brass instrument. Wait a second. So I ended up in the low end section,
With the
not even
heaviest
wanting to be
brass.
there. I wanted to be a drummer. Everybody wants to be a
I think
drummer.
it
don't
probably had something to do with your lips. I can't see them
I-
right
I-
now, but that's what it's gonna be. Let me see your lips. Yeah, let me see them lips.
they? That's how it goes. Carrie,
mouth,
you got a pretty mouth. Carrie Eldridge, if I'm not mistaken. I think
Yes.
Carrie Eldridge was the band director
Wow,
back
a
then. so
legend still.
I can almost attest a little bit of it to going to him because he knew that I wanted to be a drummer, but I accidentally raised my hand for that low brass section. He messed up. He's going now. That's where he's headed. So that's how it started.
Wow.
Have you seen the new Taj Mahal band hall up there now?
I have not, but I mean,
It's
the old one
ridiculous.
has my heart, so I don't think I want to see it.
Nice,
You know,
yeah.
it's
Well,
almost like going home. You don't want to see it change.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say, give a plug to Neshoba Central High School. That's our county school, the Big Blue Band, Neshoba Central Band.
Absolutely.
What a program!
Absolutely.
My son Nick, he's here with us tonight, and he went on to be a collegian. You're a collegian as well.
Yes, sir.
And the
Yes, sir.
collegians at East Central Community College. So we kind of y'all have that in common as well. And so you see that go from what learning a new language of music, playing,
yes, sir.
and pooting up in the band hall.
Y'all,
Yeah.
you know,
Pooting on that thing.
Daniel Wade had a huge influence on me because Daniel Wade was a bass player.
Right,
And so
and a
when
good
he
one.
found out, I haven't figured this out yet, but I believe that my mother might, and I want to know this if it's true, I believe my mother might have told him she was buying me a bass guitar for Christmas one year. I don't know this for a fact. I want to know. Because he all of a sudden knew that I got one for Christmas,
Right.
and I was joining the jazz band.
Right.
So Daniel Wade, who had a lot to do with Neshoba Central High School Jazz,
Absolutely.
the high school band, he's now at East Mississippi, I
Yeah,
do
East
believe,
Mississippi
right?
Community College.
Congratulations
Yeah, man,
to that. Big move up, yeah.
Man moved up.
College
moved up.
director, right?
sir,
Who
yes,
would've
sir.
known? The
Absolutely.
first time I ever saw him, we
Still
thought he
roams
was.
the halls at Neshoba too. Though.
We thought he was a kid the first time anybody in the band ever
thought he
saw
was
him.
Jesus.
We thought he was a kid sitting out in the crowd. He was so young.
He did a lot for that program. Stuck with it through some tough times. And one of the cool things about that band is some people are still there. I mean, they stay there a long time.
Yes, absolutely. Amanda May, I
Amanda
believe.
May is
Is she
still there, still
Yes.
handling those young kids. Still
Yep.
got those kids learning to play at an early age.
Absolutely.
And man, musicians, making musicians in Philadelphia. Now, Neshoba County is where we're at. Neshoba County, Mississippi, downtown Burnside, just outside of Philadelphia. But this area, East Central Mississippi as a whole is rich in music. And of course, I know
Oh,
you living
absolutely.
in Nashville, being in Nashville and working there, I know you see a lot of Mississippi folks.
Absolutely. You know,
Front
Callie
and back.
Prince.
Yeah,
Callie
Callie.
Prince is from
Right.
Philadelphia.
A lot of engineers, a lot
Ethan,
of
Ethan Willis,
Right.
he came up. He lived up there for a little while. There's a lot of music, and I also have to say, from being from this area, even if you don't know somebody, it's still rich in music. Like there's so music everywhere, and there's so much talent in this area that even has never left, and people don't even know that there's talent here.
Yeah.
It's just overflowing with so much talent in this area. I love Mississippi, the Delta,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We're
It
so
is.
money and we don't even know it.
Well, he's right about that. I mean, and sometimes we have been lacking of places to play. Josh is a musician, had been playing, and we were talking. I was telling him the story the other night. Josh and I were out here and talking about, hey, you remember you got me on stage or whatever. A lot of that goes on in our community where people will take younger musicians and let them scrub one off,
Oh.
or maybe show them around, let them up on stage a little bit.
Absolutely.
For me, it was radio show. I was able to get Josh and his young band. Josh was really, really young on the radio. My son Nick, he also played with different bands, and I get him on. You have been on my radio show before. Tell us about the bands that you have been with.
So the first band I joined when I moved to Nashville was a band called Two Way Crossing. They were, I gotta say, they were a little more contemporary than the route I wanted to take. I appreciated every moment I had with them. But they were, like I said, a little more contemporary, and I just dug the roots side of things. I think every time I come back and I hear a new band, they've never strayed away from that rootsy, raspy, country sound of things. And I've always kind of wondered, was I not giving them their due diligence, their shake at things? And every time I come back, like Josh's band Lariat's coming up, like every time the grittiness and the music, I'm like, no, I stuck to my roots in that moment. And so, like, I
Made a change.
Oh, absolutely. It's sometimes you have to stick up for a couple of things, and the grittiness to what it brings around here.
Two-way crossing. I played some songs, and I'm going to tell you, man, your mom. Behind every great artist is a great mom.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
She loved two-way crossing. So the next step I took, speaking of grittiness, was CJ Solar.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about, I love two-way crossing, but the exact opposite of two-way crossing would have been CJ Solar because he had that grit.
Oh,
And,
dude. And
man,
plus.
and we were a three-piece at that.
But
That
now
was amazing.
there's a little. I'm going to get into some of your questionable history.
Oh, let's see.
You had made a decision about two-way crossing. I remember talking to you about this. You made a decision about your career, possibly. Did you want to be in Nashville? Did you not? You had been
Absolutely.
digging and grinding, and you made a decision which ultimately freed you up for another gig. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that. Now, some people may not believe this story.
Well, so
I'm just gonna say.
that is true. It has been questioned a time or two whether they happened in the order that I like to tell them, and I promise you this is how it happened. Sometimes you have to feel music. I always have been told, and everybody says, no matter what kind of job you have, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And every once in a while, it felt like I was going to work. and I couldn't stand that sometimes. So I told myself, I said, look, I'm not going to do something that I love and learn to hate it. I can't take something that I love and start to grow to hate it so much. So I backed off for a second. I said, I have to take a break. I have to breathe. I've got to get away from music completely. So I called my boss, the person in charge of music, and I said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to get a job on a riverboat, an oil rig. I said, there's plenty of opportunities in music. In Mississippi, outside of music, and I can get away from this. I can breathe.
Wow.
And once I did that, they were like, all right, well, if you have to leave, you have to leave. And I completely gave music away.
Yeah.
I had moved away at that
That's
point.
pretty
not
deep
physically
right
from,
there, though. That's a
not
pretty
not
deep
physically
decision.
from Nashville. Yes, I had given it up. And 6 hours later, I got a phone call, and this person said, hey, I'm about to leave to be a songwriter, to pursue my career in songwriting. And I play bass currently for an artist named CJ Solar. Would you like to join his band to take my spot? And I said, oh my gosh, CJ Solar. I'd listened to his music. I loved his music.
Yeah. You
And I
knew him.
couldn't-
You knew him.
Oh, absolutely. I knew his songs. And I couldn't believe the fact that I'd given up everything and not had the chance to move out of Nashville before Nashville said, wait a second, hold on, don't go yet.
Right.
That was amazing. Yeah,
Wow.
I'd given up.
Well, and the cool thing is who made that call?
Oh, that was Michael Hardy.
Right,
Michael
Hardy.
Hardy played bass for CJ Solar,
Right.
and he wanted to pursue a career in writing music.
Right.
And the last gig that he played, it was a acoustic set with CJ as a songwriter. Him and CJ were both great songwriters,
Yeah.
and they played an acoustic set down on the coast. And we dropped him off with a band, and we left on our tour. That's the first show I ever played. And that band was Florida Georgia Line. Dropped him off down in Biloxi.
No doubt.
And I can't confirm this for a fact. I don't know if you have a fact checker or not. But
We don't do none of that crap.
okay, all right.
There'll
This
be
is
none
barroom
there'll be
talk,
none of that.
All right, well,
Down here.
if we're doing barroom talk, that's around the same time that Simple was written.
Right.
Yeah,
I
so,
swear.
Right.
so like that, he was himself trying to take a huge step, and
Right,
he
right.
couldn't do that until he had someone to
Help his
get-
buddy out.
Yeah, he didn't want to leave CJ.
Well, him and
abandoned.
CJ were good friends. They were
Yeah.
good friends.
And he actually heard through, I only told 2 or 3 people, and it's a coincidence that Michael found out because I didn't want anybody to know I was leaving town.
You was hurt.
Oh, nobody's gonna know I was out of there. Yeah, I was stuck in my tail, and I was coming home. Nobody was gonna know I was leaving that town. Who wants to leave prideful and just wave goodbye? No, nobody does that. I didn't, at least. I wanted to leave with my tail tucked. I'll be honest, I did.
man.
It had beat me, man. I was disappointed in myself, but I 6 hours. I mean, if it would have took me 18 to pack my bags, I would have been out of there 6 hours later.
We had Marty's Blues Cafe in Philadelphia, and we had both versions of CJ Solar.
Oh,
We
yeah,
you
absolutely.
played there with CJ, and then Michael played there as well.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, y'all all came on the radio too each time. We did the radio interviews.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that.
I remember that.
But man, I'm gonna tell you,
What an amazing show, dude.
it was fantastic, and not only that, man, what a good lesson, with being with friendly people, good guys. Now CJ's a Baton Rouge boy.
He
He's
is.
from Baton
he is.
Rouge.
But I tell you, you take Baton Rouge, Louisiana, he's still as country as can be.
That's right.
He's a good old boy. We brought him up here after that show. A funny story. I like to tell this one. We were shooting road flares at hairspray cans. And those things, but we were doing it. Funny
Y'all
thing
turn
was,
your heads.
Funny
Guys,
thing was, no, this was legal because he had all of his stamps and everything. It was legal, but we were doing it with a silence, like one of those. It almost came off of like 007 MP5s or what. You slap it and it's some fancy gun. It's silenced. I'm talking about you could hear the pin hitting the end of the shell. It was so quiet. And those things would make the biggest
They just
fireball.
told you that was legal.
Biggest fireball.
Yeah, it's legal.
Hey, no,
Do it.
It's one of those things.
famous
It's
last
legal till
word.
it's legal till you get caught.
So we videoed it, and I don't know if y'all know many CJ Solar songs, but a buddy of his named Rick Huckabee, who he wrote "Beer with Jesus" with Thomas Rhett, he saw that and he goes, "Holy cow, man! I bet you could have seen that from an airplane."
Yep.
And so that is where Airplane was
Came
written from CJ
Wow.
Solar. Yeah, that's where Airplane. We're shooting road flares in
You
the front
just
yard.
never know, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that happened after that show at Marty's.
Now, CJ, did CJ or Michael write "Tall Boy"? Was that a CJ song? or
I'm
was
pretty sure they were all
No,
together.
yeah.
You know,
Tall Boy was Michael.
that, okay.
Tall Boy.
That's
was,
because that's one of CJ. I saw on like a couple of those
Yeah.
LPs
Yeah.
they got out.
he's,
like on Apple.
Michael's actually in the video of that song. If you go to
Yeah.
Tall Boy CJ Solar,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
playing
yeah,
bass in that
Okay.
song.
Yeah,
Wearing
it's
that,
just that's just one of my favorite. That's just a
Reagan
really
Bush
good
hat.
jam.
I got a koozie.
You got a koozie?
Tall Boy on.
Oh, do you?
Dang, I don't even have one of those.
Man, it was one of the first ones. Yeah, I knew him back when.
Yeah, but that's when you were playing with CJ. Was that last time they were up there?
Yeah, that was crazy.
because Justin, even your brother, even came
And I'm
up
a-
for that
I'm
yeah,
show.
yeah, he did.
I'm gonna tell you, I've seen some of your video social media posts recently, and you've
Trying it out.
you've been kind of low. I mean, you're not one to get yourself out there, honestly, but I'm enjoying seeing what I'm seeing right now. Tell us a little bit about your career. What's going on with you now, and how did you get where you are now? What happened after those days?
I'll tell you, every single step of my life has always been about who you know. Everybody has a different story. Working hard, who you know. Sometimes daddy bought it. That's
Yeah,
a story.
Daddy
That's how
might,
it goes. If you make it, you make it. It doesn't matter how you get there, in my opinion. But my story it was all about handshakes. And so the next handshake I did was the guitar player for Frank Foster.
Y'all play together somewhere?
Topher Peterson. No, actually, on the social media, Instagram, I made a post of a Brent Cobb album, a Jerry Reed T-shirt, and a Frank Foster CD. And they were waiting on me in Amazon packages at home. Said I can't wait to get back to them.
Yeah, right.
Made friends with Frank Foster's guitar player through social media from that. And then randomly, about a year and a half later, he was like, "Hey, we need a
We
bass
need a bass
player."
player.
So I'm talking about one interaction with this guy over social media,
Right.
one time, and a couple more times. We never had met,
Yeah.
never before. And he was like, "Hey, I need a bass player." Do you wanna
Networking is
do
the
it?
key.
Yeah, obviously, it was very memorable in his mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I also had I was a little better on social media, and Ethan Willis, why I want to mention this story. Ethan Willis did a round on DeMummery Street in Nashville. And one of his songs is pretty rowdy, and if y'all have ever seen me, I get pretty crazy on stage. I'm not the same person off stage as I am on stage, but I jumped off the bass drum, hair slinging, like stood up on top of the bass drum and jumped off of it. It doesn't seem like that big of a feat, but you couldn't even stand up in the room. It was a short room. So
right.
Frank, Topher saw this video and sent it to Frank and was like, "Hey man, you have to see this guy." And they saw me bouncing off the walls and were like, "We have to have him."
Great,
So,
great, man. That's fun. Well, good thing you did that.
absolutely.
Awesome. Making friends and shaking hands, that's kind of been who you are. You're a friendly guy. You're outgoing, very outgoing. And
So I
then,
met these guys, yeah.
You know-
Josh Jolly and all them, yeah.
tell us about how this, how you guys got together. When did you guys get
Well,
together?
Josh, I can't honestly remember the first time we met, I guess.
That was back in the Detour days.
The detour.
Detour days.
I thought you
That
Dirty Danny and the SOBs.
Yeah, that was what 2007, 2000? No, not that far.
You remember that, don't you? Yeah, you do.
Crazy.
I knew you did. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a trailer member over there. Everybody went to the trailer at least once.
Hey, I recently found a kick drum head from Danny's Kick Drum. And it's got, we had like a little tag, the Trailer Gang, 2 T's, shaped like a house, the Trailer Gang.
Yeah.
It's still got that tag on it. It's up there in the barn up there. I was like, man, there's some things you just can't throw away.
Well, I just said a minute ago,
Absolutely.
behind every, good artist, behind everybody that enjoys music, there's a good mom.
That's right.
There's moms that are letting them do and letting them get away with it.
Don't forget about the dad, because I got those chords whenever Penny Shook was in here.
Now, see, Todd, this was their practice house
this
right
our
here.
first
Oh, I remember it, yeah.
Yeah. So where did you guys practice in town? Would you practice here? Where'd you guys practice?
So Danny Smith for Detour lived in Carthage, and so we always practiced
Oh,
down
you're
in
out of town.
Carthage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was a little. I got to be honest. I think being in music for as long as I have, I believe I've only practiced at my house probably twice. I always had to drive somewhere.
Right,
Being the
right.
bass player with the most equipment and the biggest things,
Yeah.
no.
You had to move.
Take that back. The drummer's got the most stuff.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. Bass players. I mean, you guys. I'm telling you, you guys hold it down. I mean, a lot of people, in the world you're in now, you can show out a little bit in this. You talked about a gritty, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are having a blast. This is really fitting your style, personality. Is this
Absolutely.
kind of a dream gig, or is there somewhere down the road that you maybe aspire to?
This is pretty much dream for me, and I'll tell you why. It's because in Nashville, a lot of times, you'll find an artist, and each musician is different. You'll go 2 or 3 years, and then they'll drop everybody. I believe, like I've heard countless big-name artists just completely dropping everybody that they know out from under them, and then just rehiring everybody. They might hire the same people, but they'll still fire them, and then go back through the whole process of rehiring people. The group I have now, we're a band. Jeremy, J-Dub, the drummer of Frank Foster, Andrew Sheriff, like he produces, Radler, Brian, they're all great guys. Like we are together, we do all of Frank's stuff, and you couldn't ask for a better group of guys because we ourselves are trying to create, I don't want to say copy like the Muscle Shoals Swampers kind of thing, but you put all 4 of us together, and it doesn't matter what kind of music you're trying to create. Us 4 together, we're so tied in after 5 years of playing together. Radler's kind of new, but he fit in like a glove. 5 years of playing together, and us guys, there's nothing you can't throw at us that we're not prepared for. Whereas a lot of musicians in Nashville, they're so good that they can sit in with anybody, and they can make it sound great. But
And it can be replaced easily with somebody just as good.
exactly, so
But now, the situation you just described to me, the closeness, the, kind of off the high horse, everybody doing their part and wanting to and
There's
enjoying
no
that,
ego.
that was kind of on purpose.
absolutely.
Frank's plan was to do just that.
It was chosen, and when I say this, I don't mean to say that anybody that has been knocked out was knocked out or passed up on or anything like that intentionally to create the perfect band. By no means.
Right.
It was
is
just
what
a
it is.
happenstance. Absolutely. When I
Yeah.
was hired on, they had no clue that I was a Frank fan. It was just happenstance. And 5 or 6 weeks in, he said, "You know what I like about you?" He said, "You're every foot in." He said, "You ain't looking for something else on the side." He said, "You're all in on this gig." He said, "I can tell that right now." And that started almost. We're a family as a band, and you might see that in Eric Church's band. I think all those guys are the same.
Yeah.
Jason Aldein's band, all the same. But you go to a lot of these groups on the road, and they're not the same band that played on the albums. They haven't been together for 6, 7, 8 years.
Well, and most of the time, on a single artist, I mean, even bands and ours and others, they use the studio guys. They get the tracks and they send you on your way.
That's why I think it's a dream gig, because I play on the tracks for
Exactly,
Frank.
man,
I
that's
play all the bass
fantastic.
parts that's been played since I've joined
And
the
to
group.
me, that seems a dream gig of how you're picking up all these little things, and you may not even realize what you're picking up.
Yeah, one thing I still wish I could, squeak my foot in on, and you've always told me this has been a thing for you, is anytime you could get in a room with people that are writing, get in there. Because you get in on a write, real quick. I've seen a lot of my friends I got to mention one right now. John Kraft. He was working on oil pipelines, or I'm not sure what he was doing. Something to do with the oil
Way
industry,
off,
I'm guessing. Yeah. He traveled a lot. How about that? And he wrote a song called "Depends on the Weather," and he sent that to CJ Solar, and CJ was like, "Man, a lot of times not to offend anybody, but you get random songs from somebody off the road, and you're like, all right, you've tried. Let me see what it's got."
Yeah.
And we knew John Kraft, and he sent it in. CJ was like, "Oh, this is really good." And John Kraft is a writer in Nashville.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
he moved down to Nashville, made a career out of it. And
Nice.
sometimes
Nice.
I kick myself because when I joined into Nashville and I became friends with a lot of writers, I mean, I was friends with people that were writing hits for like Blake Shelton and Chris Jansen. Like these are big name artists, and so I almost felt intimidated
Oh, no
to
doubt.
get my foot in the door a
No
little
doubt.
bit. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I kind of regret is not almost sticking my foot in my mouth. In a sense,
And
of sticking my
just
foot in the door.
saying,
I can write.
Well, if you sit and watch, you'll see a lot of people. Nick's a writer. Nick has been a
I can't
writer.
write.
Were you wanting to be a writer or just a musician? Honestly, and writing didn't ever really come or
It
present
just
itself?
it never really came really.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. I've tried a couple of times, and it's just not something that I won't even say it didn't come natural. Even when I tried to pursue it, it just didn't feel good. And I knew that if it didn't feel right, like I
Not to do
pursued
it.
music, and immediately I was like, this feels good. Like this feels like I can do something.
Yeah.
Songwriting, however.
Josh is a songwriter. Nick's a songwriter. We got a couple in here that can tell a little bit different about that. Now,
Yeah.
you guys were music
Yeah,
guys.
Josh is you won songwriter of the.
of the year.
You have an
Sure
award
did.
for songwriter, right?
Went to Muscle Shows and recorded this song. Great
Yeah,
song.
I met
My mom, I have to say that, by the way, my mom plays your album in the radio she has your CD in the truck. She plays it all the
That
time. She
awesome.
loves
Hey,
it.
that's awesome.
She loves it.
like a good friend of mine, Billy Lawson. Y'all know?
I know Billy.
y'all
Yeah,
Billy?
from that. Yeah.
He wrote that song "Left Something Turned On at Home,"
Oh.
Yeah.
and me and him, I still talk to him daily, and I send him ideas. We'll send ideas back and forth.
Yeah, he's on Muscle Shows guy.
Oh yeah,
we
he's-
met him back in
he's
the '90s.
Yeah,
Great dude. Great dude.
he's like when you go to Muscle Shows, because he's got a Wishbone studio. What was the other big
Fame.
Fame studio?
Studios.
So for me to get to record in Wishbone, I mean that was kind of a dream.
Fantastic.
Dream
Hey,
come
that's
true.
awesome.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Shenandoah's did the rhythm section for me, did the harmony on "It Ain't Easy," and then I met
Really? That's
Tough as nails.
That's cool.
I met
It
Roy
is cool.
Orbison's keyboard player.
Yeah.
That
And,
is neat.
Dude, it was part. These people come in, never heard the song, they just chart it. Took them about 5 minutes to start the song. First take, man, it sounded like a dream.
That's
Right.
amazing, dude.
Right.
It's
It
it's
really
insane
is.
how good folks are out there.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
telling
awesome.
you, and to have friends like that support you like that, Clint, you were just talking about that too. About having somebody, and it doesn't matter. I know to the right person, it doesn't matter if you got 5 or 5,000.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same show.
Absolutely. I believe the quotes from Dave Grohl. He said, you play one song to 85,000 people, they're going to sing it back for 85,000 different reasons. So that, in my opinion, says even if there's one person in that room, you play your heart out to them. You never know. And plus, to me, it's not all about it's about entertainment, but regardless of who's out there, you can ask the drummer, everybody in the band. When we go into our rehearsal studio in Nashville, we're playing to a curtain, a brick
Oh,
wall.
yeah.
There's
Oh, yeah.
nothing.
Been there.
I'm still bouncing around.
Oh, yeah, you throwing
Yeah, it's
down.
fun.
I'm gonna do the same thing, regardless.
You're having fun, dude.
Absolutely.
You're having fun.
Absolutely. So you playing music in Philadelphia. Who are some of the groups that you went to see when you weren't playing music?
Honestly, I didn't get out much back then.
Okay.
I was kind of, I couldn't drive to Meridian, and I wasn't allowed to on
Was,
Highway 19.
Was
I mean,
what's the man
Didn't get to go
the
see
beer
a lot of
shack
bands.
just south of the county line?
Oh, you talking about Ed's Beer Joint?
Ed's beer joint. Did you ever go to Ed's, Jeff?
Played there 4 years straight.
You played at Ed's, man.
We were the
If
first.
there's one thing I could do,
we were
I
the
wish I
first
could go to
band
Ed's.
at Ed's Beer Joint. First band.
Really?
Well, I'll tell you what he did. Here's what he did. He told me to come, and I'll talk. We really came to interview. But it was a beer
Now,
joint.
I want to hear this.
we had a band, you know, out of school. We did all the high schools, and it was like, now what are we gonna do? Well, there was Ed's Beer Joint, Meridian. Halfway from Meridian was Ed's Beer Joint, across the county line. Well, we went to play for Ed's. He let us play, and after that, he said, look, we had a big crowd, man, big old crowd. People come from everywhere. And he called me up, and you remember the Ed's Beer Joint days?
Oh,
I
yes,
bet,
I
know.
do. I remember
We
very
could got
well.
some very great stories there. But anyway, it was packed out every time. The first time we played, he called me and he said, I need you to come down here to see me. It was a Wednesday. Never forget it. We played weekend both nights. And I walked in the bar. It was afternoon after work. I worked at Byers Furniture here in Philadelphia. And he looked, hey, come here, I got to show you something. And he rolled out these plans. And what it was Ed's Beer Joint. If you go by, it's just a block, straight building. Well, now it has a back to it. It had 2 pool tables in the front and then 2 in the back where we played. He said, if you'll play for me for 1 year, every other weekend, this is what I'll do. And he rolled out them plans. He was going to bust out the back, move them pool tables out of there to have them a little pool room.
A little
that
expansion.
so that we could have the front room. We ended up staying 4 years there.
Wow.
And
That's impressive.
Have mercy. Did we have fun, Barry Crew?
Amen, bro.
We have fun. Let me tell y'all something that I'm gonna go back to something Clint said a while ago about that person. Somebody you find, somebody in the audience. I saw this interview with about Woodstock. It was a Creedence guy, John Fogerty.
Oh,
He said, "Man, we followed the Grateful Dead." They told us, "Oh, you're gonna be there's gonna be all these things here. Come on." Nobody told them they're gonna follow the Grateful Dead. Well, they supposed to go on about 10 or 11 that night after. Well, the Dead didn't stop till about 2:30 in the morning. And so by the time they got you know all the equipment off them and them on, everybody that was naked was asleep.
They were headed back to Earth at that point.
yeah. And so he said, you know, we got out there and was like, man, we hope we can kind of wake y'all up. We were jamming. It was Creedence. Creedence hammers every song. I mean, they do. Every song's, you know. And he said, they were twisted up. And he said, you seen the body parts. You weren't really sure whose was whose. But it was, he said, it was pretty cool. He said, but way out there was this one guy. He was way out there under the tower. John, we're with you. We're with you, John. John said, I played to that
You know,
guy.
and I've been,
I played to that
The
guy.
lighthouse right there, man. He was the lighthouse,
He
that
was.
beacon.
I've seen a lot of stuff at Ed's Beer Joint, but I'm gonna tell you what, I hung out a lot at Ed Phillips' store.
Oh, yeah, Phillips Grocery.
And,
Phillips Grocery, yeah.
Actually got involved down there one night. I wasn't there when it happened, but
Unintentionally.
it was a shooting happened down there one night, and bad guy come in there and tried to force his way, and I ain't gonna call no names, but the
Right.
proprietor did not put up with him, and he shot him.
I like how you say you tried to, man.
Yeah, he tried.
I ain't never seen so many lawmen and blue lights. And this is back before I was in law enforcement. I was married into the family.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
But
Wow.
it was a very eventful night.
Let me ask you this.
I can tell you that.
What about, you ever been to Bo's Tavern?
Negative.
Yeah.
I skipped Bo's Tavern because I knew.
You knew.
No, I take that back. I went in Bo's one time, and it take me but just a few seconds.
Felt
till I
weird in there,
decided,
didn't it?
This ain't the place for me.
It felt weird in there, didn't it?
It felt weird in there,
Well,
and
yeah.
Now,
you knew you
where was
gonna-
Bo's located at?
About 150 yards past Ed.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what.
Okay,
back
okay.
in the day,
In
back
the
in the
holler
day now.
before you get to the drag strip.
I don't know how
Now,
many
listen
bodies
to me
are
now.
buried around on that property.
back in the day, when
It sounds
Ed's
like
Beer
pops.
Joint was open, and right down the road on the left was a black joint,
Yeah, that was cool.
and on down the road
White
was
House.
Ed Phillips's.
That was a White House.
And you literally, if you went down 19 Highway, it was like the Shelby County Fair.
People parked on the
I
side.
mean, it was people parked everywhere.
We were partying, man.
You couldn't, You couldn't hardly get down through there.
Do y'all
without
remember
running over
do y'all remember the
somebody.
place over by the Evangel Temple? Is that in Meridian? There's a little beer joint down the road from that.
Oh yeah, that was
It wasn't called the White Castle, was it? The White Castle.
It looked like a White Castle.
Don't
didn't
ask
it?
me how I know. All right.
Now that was a
I'm
place I frequented.
I'm way too young to remember these stories. I'm not claiming to know everything about
Yeah.
Meridian.
Yeah.
But like my mama, she knows some crazy stories about these places, and so I love hearing them.
Yep, I was
It's-
frequented the
Well,
White House was one of
I
those
can tell
spots.
y'all a lot about them places, and I ain't gonna tell you.
Hey, one that you might ought to. It's not in business anymore, and the statute of limitation is way past. Club Capri, mall shoemate.
Well,
You ever had to do any patrolling out that way? Or?
No, I was a Shelby County man.
Okay, I
But
didn't
now
know.
I've been there. I've been there, but I ain't gonna
Been there a
comment
time
on
or
it.
two.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what about. I'll tell you the reason why I know so much about it. We were friends with the owners, but the best pool tables in the state of Mississippi for competitive. If you're gonna compete, you're gonna have a 9-ball. One of those things. They're not advertised. Let me just say that. But that's where you'd go. You go there if you had some serious money bet on some 9-ball.
Who was there was a 9-ball champion opened up a bar in south of Jackson, wasn't it?
Oh
What
yeah, that was
guy's
that
name?
dude. It's a
Byron
up
or
at Byram, up in
Byram.
Byram.
That's what it was.
A
Yeah.
really cool bar. He was a cool
Yeah,
guy.
Detour played there a time or two. That guy
It
was,
was a pool
champion.
hall with a place
Yeah.
to play music.
Yeah, he was a champion 8-ball or 9-ball
Was,
pool player
sure
as well
was.
as a pool hall. Yeah,
And a
really
cool
cool
guy.
place.
Santa
You
Fe
remember-
played there.
You remember the night I filled in for Detour? I filled in as the bass player for Fonsdale Bike Rally.
Oh.
No, I don't remember this, but I've been told by multiple people from Detour it was the one show I didn't want to miss.
Well, I wish I would have missed it.
Why do you say that, Josh?
So I show up. I just get a call saying, "Hey, you want to come play bass?"
I can't even remember why I missed that.
I
yeah.
used your bass and your cab
Yeah, they-
because you were. I don't know what happened, but you couldn't play and
I might have been out with Crush or something at the point. So I was
We-
pulling double duty with them.
I think that may have been it. But I know we pulled in, and it's like 5,000 campers. It's the biggest bike rally in Alabama.
It's the biggest show Detour ever played, I
But
think.
they didn't tell me it was a nude bike rally.
I don't think the folks that showed up knew it was a nude bike rally until they got that drunk.
We were the only
No,
ones
it's nude.
with clothes on.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Jam.
Yeah.
So you guys have that in common.
Yeah,
as well.
you know, the jazz band, when I joined, Daniel Wade, as I mentioned earlier, he kind of knew that I was getting into music. So I was always in the jazz band. He wanted me to play bass for the jazz band, so I did. I played. I'm not aware that I actually ever played on the sidelines. I got into a little bit of trouble my senior year.
Okay. Yeah.
I was an honest person. I told an honest tale. I got into a lot of trouble. Things happen, okay? So
True that.
I was supposed to play sideline bass guitar in a halftime show as my senior year, but I was kicked out of band. Things happen.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a great man for the life that I've lived, and the Lord put me there for a reason, and I'm here now for the
I
reason
hate
I
that
should
happened,
be.
man. That's too bad.
I don't hate it happened at all. That's the reason I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But regardless, jazz band, I started playing music. I played even into college jazz bands. They had the, what did they call them? It was a jazz band, but you only had one trombone, one saxophone, one trumpet.
Okay.
A combo, a jazz combo. And
Yeah.
so you basically had to like freestyle most of the song because you had solos and everything. And that was the first time I'd ever played. I wasn't in a cover band or anything. I never realized that you could, I played all through high school, 4 years of high school and a year and a half of college.
Yeah.
Before I ever realized I could join a cover band and make money in a bar.
I know, dude.
I was
yeah.
playing sheet jazz music,
Yeah, for
it took me
real.
5 years of playing bass guitar before I ever used my ear to
Yeah.
play a song. And they were like,
Right.
hey, go learn this song. And I'm like, all right, where's the sheet music to it? They
Yeah,
looked
where's
at
the
me
sheet
like,
music?
what?
What?
I give you the number charts, and I'm like, they're letters. Don't you know they're letters?
Yeah,
They're like,
right.
no, it's 1 through 6, man. 1 through
Yeah,
7.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
1 through
You don't know
7.
your numbers,
Yeah,
bro?
1 through 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I bet you know them now.
Yeah, oh, I do. I know them now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I could put a sheet of numbers in front of you. You could go to town. Couldn't you?
You're exactly
Go to
right,
town.
yeah.
Ain't that wild?
That was some good information. We mentioned Michael Hardy, and I got to give another tip of the hat. He taught me a lot about Nashville itself. It's
Yeah.
just a knowing people kind of game up there.
Yeah.
Multiple ways to get in, but one is knowing people. They call it the Nashville handshake. It used to be you had a business card. Nowadays you give out your IG account,
Yeah,
your
right.
Instagram. But used
Yeah.
to you handshook with a business card. That was called the Nashville handshake.
Yeah.
Well,
Or a cassette.
yeah, I cassette tape back in the day. Yeah, this is what I've done
Yeah.
before with a little duct tape piece of your name on it. yeah.
Right.
But Michael Hardy helped me through a lot of that, So
That's
yeah,
cool,
good
man.
tip of the
Hands
hat
up.
to
Helping
him.
people out, the
Yeah.
right music. Some will and some will not.
Yeah, it's
Some will not help you
it's a
at all.
harsh game, and a lot of times if somebody thinks that you're going to get a leg
you're
up on them,
challenge. You're a challenge.
yeah, if you're a
to them.
challenger,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow. I can
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that.
Man,
I never
it's a
thought
cut-
about that.
It's a cutthroat
I
business.
would say cutthroat,
Yeah.
but I think it's a little lower than that.
Even lower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lower.
That's why I love Frank Foster. There's a lot of people out there. I don't know much about actually how the Nashville system works as far as the industry for musicians, because I've been so blessed to join a group of guys like we've talked about earlier. It's a family. Frank treats us just like family.
You were very fortunate to
abs-
land in
absolutely.
that twice.
Absolutely.
Really three times with the first group.
Yeah, Two-Way Crossing,
They were nice to you, and they really.
Oh,
liked
absolutely.
I remember
but
them being good people.
I just want to preface, just because we disagreed on the music that we played does not mean that they were not great people.
You
But
were
if,
kind of
if
like a studio guy almost. You were filling in their spot, playing their
Yeah.
parts until you.
what
couldn't do
we
it
were playing
anymore.
like Katy Perry and Taylor Swift, and I'll be honest, that wasn't even saved on my phone, and so the disconnect
I would probably have
became
a problem
greater
being your
and
friend.
greater.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
and so I was like, all right, Bruno Mars, I remember, it just came out with that 24 karat gold, and I was like, man, this is about like I could do some of this kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
man, there were some great bass parts on that album.
Oh,
actually,
yeah,
but
absolutely,
I was
bro.
like, this is about as close as I could ever get to anything that we're playing right now. Like, why
Yeah.
do I have such a disconnect for the music that I have to go out and show emotion toward? We were going to high schools and telling the kids why they should go on to pursue like degrees in music and college degrees and such. And I was like, well, first off, I quit college to pursue music, so you can't go and you can't make me someone that goes and tells somebody to pursue a college career.
I know,
mean,
yeah.
So your problem is if
And
you
the-
Too
he
honest.
doesn't tell you on the music business.
Yeah, and then second off, like I was like, I don't even feel the music that I'm playing right now, and that made me question everything immediately. I was like, well, why am I not feeling it?
it's a shame.
Yeah.
What it was something was working for you, and the Lord was taking care of you, man.
Yeah.
And the
Amen.
Lord watched
Absolutely.
you,
That,
man.
I'll say that. Yeah,
No
you
doubt.
know, every once in a while, you come to a step in your life, and you yourself have tried to make this so hard and so much, and I'm not claiming to know a lot about the Bible by no means, but recently I've been in Genesis, and Abraham, he had
Yeah.
prayed so much for his son. He had Isaac. One of the things that the Lord challenges Abraham to do in Genesis is to sacrifice Isaac, you
Yep.
know, and it's like, hey, take him up here and kill him. And
Yeah.
Abraham's like, well, all right, well, I will, but, you're going to bring him back to life, right? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it
yeah.
went through his head. That's crazy.
I know.
I went up and I was like, man, I moved to Nashville. I know for a fact I was supposed to be here. And I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing my musical career to Abraham.
No.
That's not what I'm doing.
But you felt that
But I'm
way.
saying,
You
like,
felt
yeah, I was like, man,
compelled,
I'm almost giving up everything.
I
And
get exactly what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
gave it up, and 6 hours later, somebody called me and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
don't leave yet. Don't leave
Yeah.
yet. You're still where you're meant to be. You had to learn a lesson."
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
It's
a
didn't
lesson
even
to
know
learn.
you
That's
were
cool
leaving.
how you compared that.
And
Yeah.
they didn't even know you were leaving.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. Because just like
That's cool,
Abraham,
man.
that it says an angel stopped him. He drew
It
back
says his
that
name
night.
twice, Abraham.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
instant. It's like, wait a second, hold
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So, and I there again, I will say again, I'm not comparing what I did to Abraham's by no means, but I will say that it was a sacrifice that I was making. I was giving up everything to go back to what I would call a blue collar life, a hard earned life.
Yeah.
What you could
To
have
breaking
done,
that
you could have
again.
done, you could have
And
done
foretelling
that well.
of that is Frank Foster's one of his songs that I love so much was Blue Collar Boys, and I was like, you know what, this guy's he sang about it. It must not be that hard of a life. I can still go back and I can still make it. I can
Right.
still do it. 4 years later, who's calling my phone? I get a voicemail from Frank Foster, and I'm like, this can't be him. And I hung up on it. And I'm like, dang, I gonna. Hey, I call it the first time. Funny story. He sent me an Instagram message and said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity. Would you call me?" Frank Foster, you know. And so, Frank.
Don't know how to work a cassette player, do you?
What the heck is that? Boy, don't know how to work a tape
player.
Boy, don't know how to work a tape player. So, Frank sent me a message on Instagram. I was like, this can't be him. You know, it's probably before blue check marks, if I'm not mistaken. I called him, hey, this is Frank. I almost dropped the phone. I was like, this can't be Frank Foster. This is a joke. It's like, shit, I'm on the phone with him.
That's
gotta
amazing.
Say something
Yeah.
here. So
Right.
that was fun for me. It's a time.
cool.
So how did he find you? You know?
I knew Topher. And Topher was a handshake as well, just
Oh,
like
cool.
Michael Hardy.
Yeah.
I knew Michael from way back, but
Yeah.
Topher knew me from just Instagram interactions. I saw where they were playing at Exit In, and I was in town. I was like, hey, man, put me on the list. I want to be there. Or I said, hey, are y'all playing in town anytime soon? He said, yeah, you're on the list. Come on. Well, I paid my way in. I was like, I don't know you well enough. So I paid my own tickets.
Yeah.
I got in the door, and I took a picture. I said, man, this guy right here, he's doing it right here. And 6 months later, he was like, hey, we need a bass player. He said, we've been 2.5 months and nobody's known the guy. He said, I just randomly remembered you. He said, I'm going to call you up. He said, I want you to show up with everything you got.
Yeah.
I showed up with ripped jeans and a Smokey and the Bandit t-shirt. It had Snowman on it. And they said, well, we like you. We like what you do. He said, do you have any nicknames or anything? I said, well, that's an odd question to ask.
Right. Yeah.
There's your
Clint.
chance.
That's what I was thinking.
Clint is kind of a nickname. I said, my name's Clinton. So when you get called Clint your whole life, you don't get a nickname. They said, well, we don't even know your first name. We've been calling you Burt Reynolds the whole time.
Burt Reynolds.
Been shortened to Bandit.
Yeah.
He said, and then you show up with a Smokey and the Bandit t-shirt on, a snowman on the front
that's
of it.
crazy.
So I've been known as Bandit practically my
Yeah,
whole life
Bandit.
with Frank.
Yeah.
That's just one more element to add to the family.
That's cool.
I'll call J-Dub, our drummer, and his son will answer the phone. Hello? Hold on. Mr. Bandit's on the phone. J-Dub, does your kid know my first name? He said, no, he don't even know your last one. It's Mr. Bandit.
Mr. Bandit. That's cool.
That's great.
A good old family, man.
But you got to feel good. And, okay, so Frank's been around and doing his thing for a long time.
2011, 2012,
2011, and he's been hot. He sells out. He's having a blast.
He's got so many records. I tell people all the time, you don't understand. He's got back-to-back sellout shows in Mobile, Alabama that are second to some rapper. I don't want to mistakenly name the wrong person, but there's a rapper in New Orleans, in Mobile. I'm sorry, that he's second place, first place. They're tied with sellout shows back-to-back at Soul Kitchen at 6, I think. He holds beer sales records in Memphis. The people in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, after COVID, they called him and said, "Hey, we don't know who you are, but we want you back." He was like, "Well, why do you want me back if you don't know who I am?" Said, "You hold the record for the most beer sales." He said, "So come on back and sell that beer again."
That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah, if my understanding is correct, there again, you don't have a fact checker. So
No, we do not.
right. I was told that he held the record for the Dixie National Rodeo until Laney Wilson sold it out a couple of years back. So he,
Hard to compete with
regardless of
her.
whether these are actually standing records or not, he still holds Zach Top. He got it. Oh, so he beat out Laney Wilson.
Wow.
And then gave their money back to him. Wow. Good man right there. I like Zach Top. He's truly country. But Frank, they call him the Underground King for a reason, and that's truly because he's almost like got a Dave Matthews type fan base on the country music scene.
Yeah.
You might not
Very
know him, but if
loyal.
you drive across, the southern states and you mention his name, somebody in a gas station is gonna know him.
Yeah, no
somewhere.
doubt. He's been doing this a long time. I'm having a good time. How long do you think your gig will be with this? I mean, I know you want to do more in your music career. This is not over for you.
No, not at all.
Where do you fit age-wise in the band? Like Frank's, Frank's been around a while. What's in your future? You think?
I can't say by any means that Frank's about to give it up. He's got kids that are growing up, and you can only imagine. I'm only assuming, by all means. That you know, kids. I got to give a nod to his son. His son is one heck of a ball player. Scored 38 points in a little league game the other day in basketball. Wow. In basketball, so he's a hot hand. So I can only assume, if I was a dad, my kid was that good, I'd want to be around a little bit more.
Of course.
And not saying that Frank's going to stop by any means, but you know, me myself, I have a few good years underneath me, and so with that, the guitar player in our band, he is actually a great musician and a great singer, and so our band is kind of trying to see what this guy's got. You know, put a little bit into him. You know, like I said, when our band gets
Put him
in
out
the
front
studio,
a little bit.
we're not to compare us to the Swampers by any means, but we're as tight as a band in a studio. Kind of like the Swampers, where you put them all there together, they're going to create a masterpiece no matter what you put in front of them. We feel as tight as a band as anybody does, so you put music in front of us, we can produce something great, and we really think that one of our new guitar players possibly has something under his belt. You know?
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing we need to get out of this this meeting, of course, we love talking with Clint, our neighbor, our friend, our good friend back home again,
Appreciate
hitting the road again. It's so good to have you home,
Yeah,
man.
hey, I'd like to
Love
mention, I don't know if this is coming out, but I'm coming to Philadelphia sometime soon.
Yes, you sure are.
Nice.
And of course, we have a date at the Ellis Theater.
At the Ellis, yeah.
That's right, the historic Ellis Theater, and that's on the 15th.
The 15th of March.
That's right. That's
If
just
this
around
comes
the
out
corner.
before the 15th, y'all come see us. We'll be
Yeah.
down there at the Ellis.
Oh, dude, I'll be there.
No doubt.
Absolutely,
That's gonna be cool.
I'll be there. Yeah,
Better get a ticket, cause I mean they went.
dude.
I
For real?
I hope they release more. I've been told, I don't know how, but I've been told that they might release a couple more.
Okay.
I don't know how it works, but
Shit.
maybe they're just making us anticipate something.
Can we just get backstage pass,
Dang.
and then we can hang out backstage?
I don't know if I got that many, man. come to Flint, Michigan. We got plenty of them.
Hey, remember we talked about that mama, you know, with
Yeah.
mama. He's
Yeah.
right there,
I bet
mama,
she's got a
man.
backstage pass.
Yeah, I bet she does.
Man.
She got one for me knocking all the plates off of her wall when I
Well,
was
one of the
16.
things I'd really like to get out of this whole thing, and I know we have other episodes that we're going to do at Jolly's Beer Shack Bar Talk. We talked a lot about law enforcement tonight. We talked a lot about music, and that's what we talk about. What do you talk about at a bar? Anything, everything.
Yeah,
you know, I've been a
whatever comes
bartender. Y'all would do not want my list.
You've been a bartender?
Man, I've been a bartender.
Dude, I didn't know
I've been
that.
a little bit of everything at one time.
That's
son.
cool.
I ain't never been a pimp. I ain't never been a pimp. But anyway.
I ain't never been a pimp.
Wouldn't have gave that one up if you were.
Yeah, you know, that's Paul Thorne.
Look at that hat. You,
Yeah, for real, he got the pimp.
I disagree,
hat.
man.
Look
I
at that,
disagree.
man,
Shoot.
but no, you guys getting together in the studio to write. Maybe, you know, he's kind of hedging a little bit. I think he's got a story that, you know, maybe he started a good song. You know,
Yeah.
Do something.
Dude,
It's
I
kinda
bet.
We got
funny.
a songwriter of, you know.
There we go. It's all these
An
songwriters.
award-winning songwriter. I don't know
I
what
would
your
love to
title
see you
was,
guys.
honestly. I gotta
Songwriter
say.
of the Year.
Songwriter of the
Mississippi.
Year, yeah.
Yeah.
Mississippi Songwriter of the
That's
Year.
right. That's right.
Nick's been doing it since he could breathe.
Yeah.
Practically.
I'll tell you what I like.
we can do
I'll
something.
just brag on Nick about his production that
Do
he
it.
did. He did for the group. If you look at the band Esther is the name of the group. You can check that out. 2 EPs on Spotify or however you want to get your music.
Yeah.
But Nick, the thing about that you don't see about Nick is, you know, you see guitar players and you hear guitar. But in these productions, you don't hear guitar. You have to really listen.
Levels or
And
layers.
now it's what it is. It's just layers. It's fit in right. You know what I mean? It's everyone. He's making everyone else sound good too. It
Yeah.
ain't just me. And that's the thing about Nick's production.
They
He's-
call it that magic sauce.
Dude, you
Yeah.
make you take an artist and he took these bands and it wasn't his stuff, it was their stuff. And to me, that's what I like about it. Marla's vocals, Marla's songs, Nick will do some, but Nick, his whole thing was, I want them to sound better. I want them to do good. You know, and to me, that's what a real producer does.
Yeah.
He takes you and makes you better.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks for
listen to
saying that. That's
Oh,
cool.
it's true. It's really
Yeah.
true. I really feel that way, and I can prove it by just playing the music.
I-
Honestly.
I firmly believe that a good producer has no ego. I mean, I'm not a
No.
producer, so I can't speak for one. But I'm just saying, as someone that has to oversee the whole group,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't have an ego to say, even for a person, not for yourself, but for someone like, oh, my shining guitar player has to shine.
Right.
You can't do that. You have to layer everyone
Absolutely.
as where they're supposed to go.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So
Yeah, the bigger
that's a cool
picture.
aspect that I don't know. So you
Yeah.
can bring that to the table.
Yeah.
Meaning I'm going to send my bass parts to you, and you're going to make them sound good.
A room somewhere,
something.
just talking, maybe a song would fall out of it. And that's kind of what I always did. You know, I wrote with a lot of songwriters. Derek would describe writing with the ones he did. Everybody had different songwriters and they were all really good songwriters, and we would talk about how they would do their things, how they would do it. Everybody did it differently. Everybody did it differently. It was the funniest thing though, Derek George. You know, Derek was didn't drink, didn't smoke. He was squeaky
He was
clean.
the youngest
He was
of the group,
17
correct?
years
Yeah,
old.
yeah, that's what I thought.
And he was squeaky clean, and he wrote with John, a guy I'm gonna tell him this guy's name is John Scott. It's somebody. Anyway, he's a hit, absolute straight up hit songwriter. And Derek, did not want anybody smoking or drinking or anything like that. Well, he didn't realize that he was telling us about this song. We get stuck, man. We get stuck. And John would go out and smoke a cigarette. And then you come back and you have the whole song wrote.
Yeah, right.
From which hand?
We
That
later
matters.
learned.
That matters.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a joke. Derek, you know Derek well.
Oh,
Derek
yeah,
George,
yeah,
of course.
yeah, Derek
my
George,
guitar, my buddy, and he was like, he laughed and everything's funny. Everything was always funny to Derek. But he would laugh and say, "I had no clue." Guess what? He was, it's like
Had no clue.
Yeah, he was going out.
Got it.
Yeah.
But everybody had their own way of doing that stuff. Starting one or finishing or whatever.
Did you yourself? Did you ever have a chance to sit in with anybody like that? Do you have anything penned? Did you ever write anything?
I wrote some.
You got
songs.
something?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, what was that one?
Right.
There's one that's so freaking good.
You got anything that ain't out yet? Maybe we can.
Oh, yeah, I got stuff
we
that-
can
Well,
reproduce
it's
for
just,
you. Come on, man.
What is it? Is it Not After You?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
There's one song that it's on that you said "Hello Goodbye" was on our second album.
I've never heard the second album. I just know
Second
that
album had
song.
a video, went number
'Cause you
one
get
on
shoved out the
MTV.
window, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh? And so that album has now been released on YouTube.
Really?
It's out on YouTube now. that
No
whole
way.
album.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just self-titled. Pearl
Why'd you have to
River.
do that to him, man? I just cut my hair. I should have brought it and donated it to you. I'm sorry.
That's out now. And so
have to listen
it
to
just
that.
kind of came out, and somebody sent something to me. Said, "Do you know this?" And I looked at it, and I went, "Yeah, it's not really supposed to be on YouTube. I don't think. I don't know. I mean, But anyway, I have a song on there called "Not After You."
It's a good one, dude. It's a good one.
You get a couple of 6 zeros on the end of that number, and you
Nah.
get a little paycheck.
Well, I got a few writing. I got a few writing royalties, and I
Nice.
still have them uncashed.
Uncashed.
Yeah, they're like
Okay.
$8.19 and $8.19. I got I think one for $1.39 or something. I use them as bookmarks in my thesaurus. And on the back it says, "Write better songs, you dumbass."
That's right. I got some royalties the other day from iTunes, and it was 79 cents. I said,
79 cents.
I said, heck yeah.
The stamp costs more than that, I bet.
Dude, that's
I'm
hilarious.
bringing
money.
my royalty checks
I'm
next
like,
time.
Each song is 99 cents. So how did I get
I want to hang them
79?
up in Jolly's Beer
Dude,
Shack.
yeah.
Jolly's Beer
Absolutely.
Shack deserves and needs my
Yeah,
uncashed
and needs. Yeah.
royalty check.
Dan told me them stories about where he'll get checks in the mail for
Right.
like less than $1 from
Yeah.
royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I did, our first album had, we wrote with Jim Weatherly, and of course, man, Jim, was fantastic. But we all wrote it together, all of us, and Jim helped finish it. But it got played on when you got in an airplane and you put on your little headphones and you just listen. It would play during that, and that was like $1.89. Every once in a while, I get a little check for
Yeah.
playing it on an airplane. It's like,
Right.
Probably split that a couple of
oh,
times.
what? We had 5 writers on the deal. So,
Yeah. That's how it
so
goes.
anyway.
I gotta say to that, that's one thing I respect about Frank is because if I'm not mistaken, the only people that he hires, and he still has a say so in the game, is his booking agent. He runs his merch out of his basement. He has a say
Handles
so in
all that.
everything. Yeah, and there came a point in time where he had a chance to go to Nashville and write, and it was early early teens, 2010, 2009, 2011, around then, and people just weren't digging the country thing. So he played a couple of songs, and I hate to steal his story, but I've heard him tell it so many times I'm going to.
Yeah.
He sat down and he played him a couple of country songs that were Frank Foster country, true blue,
Right.
back in the woods of Louisiana country.
Yep.
This man said, nobody wants to hear anything like that anymore. They don't want to hear that country stuff. They want something they can dance to. Frank put his guitar back in his case and closed it and said, well, some of us still do. And so that's where some of us still do came from this song. And that came from the fact that, personally, I think the man was way too soon into his genre. Like, he was before social media and before, like, good old country music. Like, Hank Williams Jr. and Leonard Skinner, that's a good combination of the Who I Said. And you look at a lot of people on the radio today, and you're like, man, that's good old rock and roll with some country lyrics to it.
Yeah.
You can almost hear it,
Yeah.
When Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, all these people took off, we were like, damn. Frank's man, I'm telling you, if they don't write an autobiography about how country music turned back into independent and put Frank in the beginning of it, he's like,
He did it before.
he did it before it was ever
anybody else
popular.
done it, right.
He actually became what they would overnight sensation or whatever from blue collar roughnecks on the oil rig. Danny Smith brought his song to me and said, hey, there's this guy trending on the oil rig right now. And it was still passed around by a CD when he became popular. He was one of the last people, I believe, to become popular off of a actual physical hand-to-hand
That's
CD.
the old Chris Ledoux deal.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Chris
He was
Ledoux
a rodeo
passing
guy.
at rodeos. He had his tapes. He'd
That's
make
cool.
his tapes at home,
Yeah.
and that's how Garth
Still-
wore out one of his tapes. You know, and,
still the only guy that ever rode a bucking bull at the CMA Awards or whatever. Y'all ever seen that video?
No.
It was back before they lip sync, and
Yeah, right.
he's on a bull and he's trying to sing. And he's on a mechanical bull
Yeah,
bucking at an
actually
award
singing.
show, singing a song, with his good
That's
old Chris
hilarious.
Ledoux.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
like
good
Chris
stuff.
Ledoux.
But dude, you were talking about failures, that's actually really
Oh,
not
I
a
failed.
thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about, you would see that, the Frank Foster thing with, some of us still do. Like, you would see, anyone would see that as like a failure.
Oh yeah,
But, like-
and tuck their tails and go home.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
But
Yeah.
like, something came from that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know the order of operations of any of this happening, but one time he was playing a show and how he met one of his guitar players. He was playing a writer's round, and he said this guy kept yelling out in the crowd, hell yeah, every song he plays. He said he's going to get on stage and either become this guy's best friend or whoop his ass, one of the two. He thought he was, this guy was being a smart ass.
Oh, I
about it.
got
He's
you,
gonna go,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna make fun of me up here, and standing up for himself, he goes out there, he meets Topher Peterson, who is
That's
actually
crazy.
enthusiastic about his music.
Yeah.
And Frank was like, heck yeah, some folks still actually enjoy this.
Yeah.
And hearing Frank, back in those days, hearing Frank say like, I didn't know if I was going to get off stage and this guy was making fun of me or actually going to be my best friend.
Right.
That to me was cool. I was like,
Yeah.
and
That's
Topher,
real right there.
Topher was the most southern bred, born northern folk that I ever met in my life.
Yeah. That's insane, man.
He'd brag
North of
about
the Mason-Dixon line.
he'd brag about the South so much until
Yeah.
you got to talking about the Civil War, and he'd be like, "Who lost?"
We are doing the night out, and of course, bar talk.
Hate to
at
see it go.
Jolly's
Our
Den.
engineers.
We have had a great night, and I know they got a lot of editing to do. We want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Nick Stewart, Josh, of
Yeah.
course, Clint Reynolds.
Absolutely,
our
appreciate
guest
y'all having me.
tonight,
Thank you so
man.
much. Dude, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Nick, Josh,
absolutely, dude.
let's write
Really
something
good
together.
seeing
We
you.
got
Yes.
something to hold to Jeff.
Yes.
This has been Bar Talk at Jolly's Beer Shack.
With Clint Reynolds
Yeah, the
and
point.
friends.
And
Thank you.
friends.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it, Jeff.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
us, guys. We'll see you next time.